R&R on Sports.
It goes all the way back to even Larry at Melrose, those next big things, and sort of who's that going to be. And so every off season it would be, okay, what's the next class coming? Who's the next big class? And it's because you've come to expect that.
Hello and welcome to R&R on Sports. I'm Howard Roberts.
And I'm the gambler. I am the gambler, Larry Robinson.
You got to know when to hold 'em.
Oh, yeah.
Know when to fold 'em.
How now?
Know when to walk away. And know when to run. You never count your money. While you're sitting at the table, there'll be time for counting that $4.5 million when the day is done. What's happening, man?
Hey, he ain't gonna get to count that $4 million.
No,
because he there's an interpreter. His interpreter took the money.
How do you know I wasn't talking about the interpreter? See,
I didn't know that.
You done go already gone.
I'm thinking. Ohtani.
We're talking about Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, man.
Probably
that's kind of interesting, though. I think it's convenient.
He's the highest paid player in baseball, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
he's
probably
cold-blooded,
easily.
Though. He's cold-blooded.
Yeah,
but he deferred so much of his money, man. I mean, it's really interesting that he would have this issue. But then on top of that, I'm just trying to figure out, man, the gambling in professional sports has almost become synonymous. I mean, you see DraftKings, you see all these gambling entities, and I'm saying, wait a minute now.
What did anybody think was going to happen? That's what we said this years ago.
I'm like, come on. Then you got teams in Vegas. So all of this impact of gambling, all of this proximity to gambling.
Absolutely.
But you want these young kids to not gamble.
Not to.
This doesn't make any sense to me.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Now you got the kid that what is that? Jonte Porter up in Toronto. He's going to play the over and under. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like, come on, guys. Mm-hmm. Come on. I mean, it's like that these kids are going to be influenced, especially when they're new to the game. You got gambling is so prevalent. I just don't see it any other way. I don't see how they could not gamble. The influence is too great.
You're in a house of prostitution.
Okay.
You got half naked or all naked women all around.
Okay.
And they
Where you
say,
going
don't you touch nothing. No, you can't do no. No, that hit your no.
What?
No, Larry.
Listen, man.
Gambling. I don't know what they.
So these young kids are into gambling so early. I mean, my young boys are into gambling. Their friends are into gambling.
Are they?
Oh yeah, they are gambling on their phones.
Your boys into it,
man. One of my boys is really into it.
Oh.
And so
is that right?
Yeah, man. It's so prevalent and it's on your phone. I mean, they're playing like these apps.
He's gambling with your money. Oh my God.
Hey, but you know what's interesting is the fact that it's even in their conversation. Think about this. When you were young, you weren't thinking about gambling.
No.
At all.
No.
But I mean, it is so prevalent. These gambling advertisements.
And there was gambling going on right down the street. It was called a crap game. No, I don't want to be a part of that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really something. I think that this is going to continue to be an issue. I think now that you got teams in Vegas, it's going to definitely be an issue. And I just don't understand how professional sports we can ever look at the same, because I believe, and I personally believe, that these refs are into it. Think about what Rudy Gobert did to the one ref, talking about money, talking about he's getting paid. Then you got Tony Brothers, who says that he's the judge, the jury, and the prosecutor, or something like that. Executioner or something. But he's talking to Chris Paul. I mean, these guys are fixing games, y'all. And let's not even, it's entertainment. I get it. But I'm telling you, just like Tim Donaghy said years ago, that these guys are fixing these games, and it's entertainment, and they don't care. They got this decided, and I think it's all a part of it.
And you heard it here first.
Absolutely, absolutely. I just don't see how you cannot.
All right.
The influence is too great.
We got a lot to talk about here on Our Own Sports. Don't you dare go anywhere. We will be right back after this.
Riffin' on Jazz.
Can't you see Miss Dawson? I mean, with that name, Mary Cardwell Dawson. You can see that. I can see that.
Riffin' on Jazz on the Kazukian Network.
Hey, this is Shaq Adocious, and when I'm in town, I'm always listening to Howard and Larry on R&R on Sports.
Welcome to Motivational Moments from the Greater Cliche Fellowship Assembly, where everything sounds like you've heard it all before. He's the Reverend Repetitious R.Y. and he's my Deacon Redundancy Brown. Now, you know, friends, just when you think this life is a slam dunk, something can come out of left field and go oops upside your head. Say oops upside your head. The bigger the headache, the bigger the pill. The bigger the pill, Reverend. Bad luck and heartache can pin you against the ropes. They don't pull no punches either. They hit you with everything they got. Everything but the kitchen sink. Beat you like a runaway slave. Kunta or Toby or one of them. And then you might go down. Down goes Frazier.
Down goes Frazier.
But you got a friend who'll let you be down but not out. You got a friend who won't let you be down for the count because it ain't over till it's over.
Wow.
It ain't over till that big whoppity greasy fat lady sings.
I like big butts and I cannot lie.
You other brothers can't deny.
My baby got back.
And that's when it's gut check time. Don't let them throw you under the bus. Remember, the best defense is a good offense.
Absolutely.
Get in the game.
It's in the game.
Don't hate the player, Pastor. Hate the game.
Why drink from the bitter cup of defeat when you can enjoy that sweet taste of victory?
Victory!
Sipping on some gin and juice.
Laid back. The ball is in your court, and it's time to swing for the fences and knock it out the park.
At the wall, see ya. Just throw your hands in the air and wave them like you just don't care.
Now, if you do these things, friends, I guarantee your good luck and prosperity will go through the roof.
The roof, the roof, the roof is on fire. We don't need no water like the mother.
This has been another motivational moment where everything sounds like you heard it all before. He's Deacon Redundancy Brown.
And he's Reverend Repetitious R.Y. from the Greater Cliche Fellowship Ass.
That's assembly, fool.
Welcome back. It's sad. How sad. How we have fallen.
You didn't want my falsetto. Now you want to talk about my baritone.
No, but
What's
the
the problem?
baritone was pitiful.
You want me to bag?
You sound like you was on the short bus.
No, man. Listen, man. Don't
Anyway,
get us in trouble.
yeah, I know. I know that is not proper or correct.
Okay, we back, folks.
So, NCAA basketball.
Now let's talk about the women, man. Let's talk about the women, man.
Okay.
Well,
That's NCAA too.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, man, that's where the exciting hoop is happening, man. You know the names because you get to learn who they are. You get to hang with them for a minute. You got Caitlin Clark leading
that's the
charge.
That's the big name.
Then you got Full Willie down in
So let's talk about everybody knows what she's done and is doing. And I don't know how far. Yes, I'm talking about Clark now.
You ain't gonna talk about Flajanae Johnson?
No, not yet.
And Angel Reese?
Not yet.
Okay.
Let's talk about Clark in terms of being the expedition leader, being the model. Now, what happens next? She is going to the WNBA. Okay?
Well, she might, because I'm telling you, Ice Cube done offered a grip. Well, Ice Cube offered her like $5 million.
$5 million to play 3-on-3. I don't think that's going to fly. But how do you think it will work out? Let's say the WNBA rises to some occasion and is able to pay her $3 to $5 million.
Okay. All right.
Okay? All right. So what does that do to everybody else in the predominantly African-American WNBA?
I think it's just like Jordan, and when he was able to get those $30 million seasons. I think it's just like what Steph Curry and LeBron and what's happening there.
So you're saying everybody's going to get a raise?
I think what happens is you have that player that helps to raise everybody. You know, the rising tide raises all boats. So, you know, for me, I think what Caitlin Clark does is she brings a level of excitement to the WNBA that hasn't existed before. Because don't forget, she's bringing all of Iowa with her.
That's clear.
She's bringing all of women's basketball with her that's going to follow her from the NCAA. She's going to have an impact on the box office.
That's clear on their box office. However, hasn't
no, I think across the board, because I mean it's just think about when Jordan and the
WNBA's rationale been, well, hey, you know, we'd love to pay y'all, but we don't have it like that.
Right.
We are not the
right.
NBA.
But
we don't gross. We don't get that kind
palatable.
Of attendance and all
she's
of that.
She's going to make it more
so
palatable.
We can't afford it.
They think about what
That's
happened.
That's what they have told everybody else.
Think about what happened at the All-Star game. What did they do? They brought Sabrina Ionescu into the shootout.
True.
So now you're going to start this integration, and then you see the setup is happening. You had Adam Silver talking about the fact that we are beyond a competitive All-Star game, but we do have these special tournaments and special games and special features that will allow the game to be more attractive to a wider scope group of people. So when you have a Sabrina versus Steph, you're going to have a Caitlin Clark versus Steph and Damian Lillard. Something like that. That's going to bring a level of excitement.
That's a novelty. That's a novelty thing. That's not a day in. That's not a day in, day out.
To me, the shooting is what anybody can do. And so when you start, what I mean by that, not anybody, but a person of normal, regular size that's more identifiable. Okay. You can't identify with a 6'8" dude. But you can identify with maybe a 6 foot female or a 6'1" or 6'2"
Okay, so let me ask
male.
you this question. Do you think, and we're talking about Caitlin Clark now.
Yeah, okay.
Do you think Caitlin Clark's presence will have a holistic impact on the game, or will it be a game by it? Will the biggest attendance for any WNBA team be the night that she shows up? She comes to town and she plays your team. Will
initially,
that's a sporadic or an individual impact.
You're saying she's going
to make a holistic impact?
I think she's going to make a organic across the board impact.
How long is that going to take, Larry?
I think it's going to be immediate. And I think that what's going to happen is whatever team she goes to, that team is going to be the villain. So then you're going to have teams that'll start looking at their players. And then when you have a Flajanae Johnson that comes out and she's rapping and everything else, and she goes up and plays against, and she gets, does her thing. When you have an Angel Reese, when she was doing the hands in front of the face thing, I think all of that is going to help WNBA raise its profile. But I also think that as soon as Caitlin Clark is drafted, that team automatically will get more sponsorships. They will sell
the
out.
Team will.
The team will. And when she
no
goes,
doubt.
but wait a minute. When she goes into the other markets, she goes into the other markets, it will have the same impact. But once again, you got the sold out teams, and then the home team is going to be more into their own players, and they're going to find their own stars, which is going to same impact that Jordan had, same impact that Larry Bird and Magic Johnson had when they came to town.
Let me say this. You said, okay, let me say this. I think that
you keep saying
if they pay her, WNBA pays her that much money, fine. However, you're going to have some serious splaining to do.
I don't think so.
Oh, yes.
I don't think
yes.
so.
Oh, yes.
I don't think so.
Oh, yes.
I don't think so.
This girl shows up from Iowa, and you pay her 4 times more than you paying the highest player.
Guess what?
Here.
Those players on that other team,
gonna have to make
those players on those other teams are going to be like, look, we're going to show you that you better pay us now. I'm going to cut the head off the snake, just like you got other players. It's going to be the same impact. Okay. Watch what I say. Watch what I say. See. Watch it and see what happens with the WNBA.
Maybe we're saying the same thing. I'm saying they're going to have to pay the other teams are going to have to pay their top players.
Well, they will as more sponsorship comes in, as the new television deal comes in.
They ain't going to say I'm saying. They are not going to come to them like that, Larry.
The new television
when
deal.
When y'all get more sponsorships, we'd like to have a raise. It ain't going to go down like that.
It is going to go down because they got a revenue share. So the amount of revenue that comes into the league will increase, and therefore player salaries will increase, and that happens on the NBA side and will happen on the WNBA side. The better they have these rivalries and these issues with, because now you got coming behind her, you got Full Willie. Now you come behind her, you got Juju Watkins. And when you get those players in, now you're going to have that same excitement, which is what has happened in the NBA. It's all, they just needed that one standard bearer. They needed that one messiah for the WNBA to be able to take that leap, just the same as the NBA needed Magic and Larry.
Yeah, we will see.
I'm telling you, I promise you, it's happening right before your eyes. You're watching history, and you're going to look back a few years from now, and it's going to be common for women players to make $5 million. Then they're gonna make $10 million. Then they're gonna make it because the young girls
you're a little too optimistic and Pollyanna-ish in terms of how long they're gonna have pressure to do that right away. Ain't gonna be wait a few. No. Ain't gonna go down like that.
What they're not talking about. What they're not talking about.
These girls are waiting. They're waiting to see what happens.
Because the new television deals are up right now. And those new television deals are going to have a piece of WNBA, and that money is going to go directly to impacting those salaries because Caitlin's coming. Okay. And when Caitlin comes to town, I guarantee you, every young girl in that city is going to want to be at that game. And Caitlin is going to have the same impact of a Steph Curry. She's going to have the same impact of a LeBron James. And it's going to be more so because she's going to be that standard bearer for the WNBA.
Who's our guest today that's going to have an impact on our audience? Do you know? You don't know.
What'd you say?
Who's our guest today that's going to have an impact on our audience?
Who?
I said who. That's
who's
answer.
on first? What's so second?
Y'all stick around. Back for more R&R on Sports. Don't go anywhere. We got somebody great.
Calling all podcasters. The Podcast Club is a creative space for creators and innovators to share their voice and empower their messages. Come be a part of the Podcast Club. You can come join us and we will help you start your own podcast. We have all the tools you need: staff, studio, and equipment. If you want more information about the Podcast Club, go visit our website, kazukian.com/podcast-club.
Welcome back to R&R on Sports.
Back.
See, I have to leave him room.
You need to
do his Smokey Robinson thing.
You need to leave me room, bro.
We are very proud to be able to always consistently bring you the best guests. Today is no different. We have Memphis, Tennessee's finest sports journalists in
His
the
brother
house.
been at it for a long time too.
Yes, he's a young guy.
Yeah, he's a young guy.
started when he was like
He's a JK.
14.
He's a JK.
Yeah.
You know what that
It's
is?
a family business.
You know what that is?
We're talking about, huh?
You know what that is, JK?
What?
A journalist kid.
That's it.
Jason Smith, welcome to R&R on Sports, my brother.
I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. Thrilled really to be with Howard more so than this character right here,
Thank you.
Larry Robinson. Yes, it's an absolute honor. Larry, it is as well. But I've long wanted to join you guys on this show, so
Man,
it's an
this is a
absolute honor to be
beautiful
here.
thing.
Appreciate that,
Yeah.
man. What took you so long?
Life, I guess. Yeah. I mean, had a lot go on. Job changes, career change, profession changes. But
You've had a lot happening, man. You have, and you know what? There's been a lot happening in Memphis.
No question.
And let's dive right into it. First of all, just a little background about yourself. Let people know, since this is your first time on, give people the Cliff Notes version of your career.
University of Memphis graduate, came out in 2002 and had the after being an older student. That's a longer story, and maybe we'll get into that later. But yeah, it started at TSU, historically black college up in Nashville.
Okay.
I got up there and got that freedom in '94, and it just
lost his
turned
mind.
me out. This
Lost
man knows
his
my
mind.
didn't last a semester. How up there, lost my scholarship. Mom and dad said you got to come back home, and so it was 5 years later.
First, you lost your mind, all that?
In
One
one
semester.
semester. He came up
I
and
saw
lost his mind raw.
the majorettes. I saw we were down the hole, and that bass was playing, and them horns were playing, and I found a new side of me. As a mixed kid, I found some rhythm.
You
First of all,
partied yourself out of TSU?
within a few weeks, within a semester, and so from that standpoint, my mom and dad, instead of paying for my second semester,
Right.
since I was on academic probation, said, "No, son, you don't realize what you had. You're gonna come home, and you're gonna come back to Memphis. You're gonna get a job, and you're gonna figure it out the hard way."
Yeah.
And so 5 years later, the Cliff Notes version, I finally realized in '99 I need to get my butt back in school. I tried construction, tried being a security guard for Imperial, realized that those were jobs. I needed a profession.
Right.
So in '99, got back into school, and 3 years later was able to graduate, get a job with Commercial Appeal in 2003. And it was a blessing. It was an
Went
absolute
back
blessing.
To school at U of M?
Yep, at the University of Memphis.
Okay.
My mom had worked there, so I was lucky. Didn't have to take out any loans or anything like that. Was able to get half off, and so it was an absolute blessing, to be honest with you. And I've told Larry this. I was that moth that needed to get close to the flame to learn. I was hard-headed, and I wouldn't trade the experience for anything because it made me learn, and it made me appreciate more what I had, appreciate more what you've got to work for. Coming out of high school, I'll be honest with you, White Station been relatively easy. I'm passing tests.
Right.
I'm a B average kid, and all of a sudden I got TSU offering me a free ride.
Right.
And for the most part, I'd made all the right decisions in terms of my parents, and my younger brother was the bad one. So this is the kid that ain't gonna give us no problem. Got up there and lost it.
Right.
Got up there in Nashville, lost it. It was all on me, but back to the point, I wouldn't trade it because that's the way I needed to learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the way God used me. I figured out that was my path.
Absolutely.
And thankfully, after going to school for 3 more years at U of M, like I really picked it up and was ready. As an older student, I was more mature. I understood.
Right.
I got purpose now. Came out after writing for the Daily
So were
Helmsman.
you headed, Larry mentioned you as being a JK, a journalist kid. Were you headed in that direction anyway?
Well, it was the plan when I got back in school. My father had been a local television, started in sports, Les Smith, transferred, moved over to news, and spent 30 years in local media. So my big idea was to go to Memphis, try to get a TV background and follow in his footsteps, try to go to television. A gentleman by the name of Jerome Wright, who was a black neighbors editor at the Commercial Appeal, loved this man to death. Was teaching.
He lives across the street from me.
Man, tell him I said hello. And he, Jerome Wright is responsible in a lot of ways for my career because it was in that features writing class that he said, yeah, you could do TV. But newspapers, Jason, will offer you more. You're a decent writer. You can come into it. And instead of having those little 2-minute sound bites to tell a story, we'll give you a little longer. Now, this was back in, 1999, 2000, when the newspaper business was still looking pretty good at that point before the internet sunk it to the point that it is now, and you're losing subscriptions. But at the time, that sounded real good to me because I think what I realized later was, much like my father, who was this great storyteller, I loved telling stories. And so doing that in a newspaper setting, in print edition, I just felt it was more fulfilling, it was more gratifying. So long story short, I decided to change over to print, become that. And the CA hired me after I graduated 2002. They hired me 2003 full-time. I had freelance for them, done everything I can to let them know, look, I want this. And in 2003, they gave me a job as a preps high school sports reporter that I spent 7 years in, covering everything from, the high school basketball in town that's so rich in tradition.
Right.
But then you're out at bowling matches, you're out covering St. Mary's volleyball, and but again, that back then you had to, that was part of you paying your dues in the newspaper industry and working up the ladder. So much has changed since then, but I was so happy to be a part of it. Man, I didn't care what I was covering. It just felt like
hold on, listen. We're talking with Jason Smith, 92.9 ESPN. I want to know, of all that prep sports you covered, specifically basketball, who was the baddest high school ball player
That's a great question.
that you ever witnessed?
It's a great question because I wrestle with this internally.
Okay.
Thaddeus Young is still in the league right now, and is a guy who, coming out of Mitchell High School, father played in the league, married his high school sweetie. You've never seen Thad in any trouble. The only thing you see of Thad is his family on social media. Been the quintessential professional basketball player, who's now, 13, 14, 15 years into his career.
Right.
Unbelievable. Wow. Great player. You could not stop him. 6'7", 6'8", maybe 6'9" at Mitchell. Left-handed, you couldn't stop him. I covered him all of his time at Mitchell. I fell in love with him from the first time I saw him. Plus, he's just such a smart, went to Georgia Tech, super smart. See him now investing, like he's, you know that he's just got a beautiful future even after basketball. All that said, I still can't put him above, you talking about a high school player that I saw and covered.
Yep.
I can't put him above Joe Jackson.
Really?
Because Joe Jackson, who scored more points than him in high school, 4 years, played as a starter at White Station since his freshman. Joe was such a competitor. You could not stop him on the high school level. There wasn't any stopping Joe. If the team was down 10-15, McDonald's All-American, the team was down 10-15, Joe going to score 20, 30 in the second half. He was unstoppable. And see, Thad, you always knew, was an NBA prospect. Wow. But with Joe, it was, I've never seen anything like this. This guy is dunking on people at 5'10", sitting on their shoulders over at White Station's gym after he dunks on them. This 6'5" kid I watched him dunk on, goes up to state, performs well. There was a thing about, Thaddeus Young's teams at Mitchell, they always made the state. And it was no fault of Thad's, but they never got over the top. Joe, in the biggest moments in high school, he broke through. And except for one Melrose team that had Adonis Thomas and Chris Jones that got him and had a great plan for him. But to your point, and one of the baddest scorers we've ever seen come out of here, right up there with Bobby Bingo Smith and all the rest of them. Like, Joe's right there behind those guys as the all-time leading high school scorers out of here. And for me, Joe Jackson, I want to say he's still third or fourth. Yeah, Bingo's still first. But Joe's up there in that range. And Thad was on more balanced teams, so his scoring was never that high.
I wish you could have seen Bobby
I wish I could have, too.
In high school.
His numbers retired for the Cavaliers.
God.
Like, he was even a great pro.
He could play anything.
That's what they said.
He was a wide receiver on the football team.
Yep.
He played basketball.
Star.
He did everything on track, and he was a baseball player. Full four-sport letterman.
He was unbelievable.
Wow.
And still is all over the record books, including best scorer we ever had come out of here.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, him, Newman, those guys, all of them were, it was a whole different level. Johnny Newman.
Yeah.
What was it like covering the likes of, Adonis Thompson, some of the baddest cast at this latest era of Memphis ballers? What's it like covering those guys?
Well, it's fun because there's such a rich tradition, that goes back so far here in Memphis in terms of high school ball players and the way this area has been thought of as just a fertile recruiting ground, a producer of massive talent. So So to answer your question, I felt like I was part of a tradition of the next big ones. Right, whether it was Adonis Thomas coming up.
Yeah.
And Adonis is a funny story because if the NBA hadn't had the rule where you couldn't come out, if you could go straight from high school still,
Right.
I truly believe Adonis would have gone out of Melrose. Now, what happens is he gets to college and folks see his deficiencies, everything else, realize he's really a 6'5" shooting guard that they got to power forward. It didn't work out for him. But back to the point, it was more the tradition of covering Memphis high school basketball that I mean, Howard just said it goes all the way back to even Larry at Melrose, those next big things and sort of who's that going to be. And so every off season it would be, okay, what's the next class coming? Who's the next big class in Memphis? Because you've come to expect that. Now, what I've learned too is it's always cyclical. You'll have down years where you don't have NBA level or even maybe a ton of Division I level talent, but it always here in Memphis, it always comes back. And so I think to answer your question, the best part of it, more so than the games or the legendary coaches, from Terry Tippett, Jerry Peters, big time over at Fairleigh, Jimmy Adams at Raleigh, Egypt, it was the fact that you are in something that has become such a staple, such a part of the fabric of the community, and you are getting to cover it. So I looked at it always as I was blessed to be in the position, and I'm part of something that's like, something that's become part of the fabric of Memphis, part of history in a way. And so that's the way.
Since this is a national show, I got to tell people that guy we were talking about, Bobby Smith, graduated from Melrose, went to Tulsa, and went on to play for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and his jersey and his name are in the rafters at Cleveland right now as we speak. You are listening to R&R on Sports. We appreciate it, and we'll be right back after this.
Looking to make your event unforgettable? Let Kadzukian handle all of your event production needs. At Kadzukian, we specialize in event production services that elevate every moment. From flawless sound to captivating visuals, we've got you covered. Make your event shine with Kadzukian. Contact us today at kadzukian.com or give us a call at 901-512-6767.
Kadzukian!
Back for more R&R on Sports with Jason Smith. I want us to talk about a plethora of things.
Oh, that's a $5 word.
Yeah. See, you went to school in Kentucky. Y'all didn't have that kind of
No, we didn't. Absolutely,
word.
we did not. We would say plenty. Say plenty.
Let's start out with the unfortunately low-hanging fruit. Let's start out with the Grizzlies in general. Okay. Now and then we're gonna back into
how long is it gonna take you to ask this damn
when
question?
I get ready, Larry. When however long, what's the never amount of time?
That boy sitting there just like waiting to talk, man, and you sitting there going on.
Let's start with the Grizzlies. What's your perspective of how they are doing everything?
That ain't what you want to ask, though.
Well, you rushed him.
You want to ask about Ja Morant.
We're going to get there.
All right, well, go ahead.
Still, boy.
Even with everything going on, I still think they're ahead of schedule, Howard. I mean, you're talking about, between Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Desmond Bane, that threesome, which I truly believe are all three guys who are going to be all-stars multiple times, Bane included.
Yeah.
With that threesome, 23, 24 years old, like, you don't see many NBA teams ready to win a championship at that age. Usually happens a little later.
Right.
And so having those three already in the fold, two of them already signed to deals, and the third one with Bane is probably going to come this summer on the max extension, you're still ahead of schedule. All of that said, I can't help but feel like they are wasting an opportunity this year. Set aside winning a championship, because I'm saying I don't believe they're mature enough to do that. But to learn, to grow in the playoffs, after winning a playoff series last year, there was an opportunity to either take another step or, more importantly, just learn more. Hitting your head up against it. We saw the Bulls do that for years. Couldn't break through the Pistons. All of those learning experiences are key to when you do break through. So I feel like having been a second seed in the West for most of the season, to put yourself in this spot now where we don't know when he's going to be back. Steven Adams now out for looks like the rest of the regular season. We know Brandon Clark's gone now for the rest of the regular season. Dylan Brooks looks like he's hurting his team more than he's helping them. You feel like there was an opportunity to learn more about yourself in those playoffs that may be wasted at this point. Because again, so much is up in the air with when will Ja be back. You know, if we knew that, maybe we get a little bit better feel. But right now, after what felt like, you know, even as recently as last week, you beat Houston first game on that road trip. You're feeling pretty good about where this team is. And all in a night, Ja Morant makes a mistake. Brandon Clark next out for the season. It's come unraveled so quickly, but maybe still an opportunity again to at least get in the playoffs and learn some more about yourself.
And that is what, for me, is conspicuously absent. There, I'm going to give you two words to me that are conspicuously absent from the Grizzlies. One is wisdom, and two is poise. They have neither. They have neither, and they're not getting it from the bench. They don't have it on the floor, and they're not getting it apparently from the bench. They have played games that were easily winnable. And it's the same scenario. They get a lead, they can't keep it. They can't build on it, and they relinquish it, and they get beat in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, that's happened a ton this season, especially on the road.
Is that the scenario, or is it just me?
No, it's
I think it's great. It's definitely the scenario. But I go back to they have no veteran leadership.
Well, I think you're hitting.
You said that the other day.
They have no veteran leadership. I mean, you think about even the Golden State Warriors. Take out Steph and Draymond and all that. You still got an Andre Iguodala on the bench. You got Andre Iguodala, consummate professional, so on and so forth. In order for you to make that jump, you got to have that. I don't believe Ja gets into the comment or makes the comments that he does if there was somebody he respected on the bench. What's your take on that?
Well, you're absolutely right about the roster and it lacking veteran leadership. I don't think there's anybody over 30 years old on the roster now that you moved off of Danny Green who could have helped you in that department and was basically saying, this is what I'm here to do in the preseason.
He understood
a guy like
his role.
that, no question about it. And so you lack that. Now, I will push back a little bit, Larry, on this. You need those guys in your locker room, and I believe any team that's going to win a championship or have young guys that need to learn needs that in there. That said, I know for a fact, whether it's Steven Adams or who's in the locker room, or more importantly, smart people outside the locker room, Penny Hardaway, Jalen Rose, there are folks that have tried to talk to Ja that aren't necessarily in the locker room, but that have told Ja, brother, you can't do this.
You can't do that.
And listen, and this is where we know it as men, and especially when we were in our early 20s.
Right.
How much are we listening?
Right.
When we've got that, and especially if the world's been handed to you in the sense that, man, I'm maxed out now. I got Nike coming to me, Powerade, right? And you're telling me that I ought to be doing it like this, brother. I'm doing just fine. And so I remember myself being a lot like that in the 20s. My point is that you can have all the veterans in the world in the locker room. If Ja is not listening, or if he doesn't believe he's got an issue, and what you hear about him is, listen, Ja doesn't, Danny Green said this, that Ja's not running with a crew of the young guys on the team and going out to the party. It's Ja by himself with his guys outside of the team. Bane and those guys, man, they're getting ready for the game the next night. You know what I'm saying? This isn't a group of young guys that are out of control. It's Ja Morant with his crew who's made some bad decisions. So back to my point, I don't think it necessarily matters how many vets you've got in there if he's not listening, if he's not in a place, right, in his maturation where he's realized, you know what, I do need to make a change.
Well, how much of an issue or a factor is T?
It's a great question because I'll put it this way. It's so easy to criticize T. I've seen it everywhere on social media. I would just beat my kid to ass. This wouldn't have happened. How y'all going to blow this like this? But what we've got to remember, too, is T has been a great father in the sense that he set Ja up for this.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Had a two-parent household, raised him up, put him in private school, put him in the position to be able to get all that. That's great fatherhood. And so to try to take some of this criticism that you see and use it to beat T down, I refuse to do that. I do see a man, though, that much like Ja is learning how to deal with all this. Like they go from, let's be real, it's rags to riches compared to what they have now. And so even him dealing with it at this point and what sort of advice I should give to my son, I think he's learning his way through too.
Well, he's become a celebrity too.
Well, and I wonder how useful is that? I do. Because, listen, I think T. Morant should have front row seats. If my son makes the NBA, I want front row seats. But what you've got to realize too is there's, when I've got Ja's best friend getting into it with the Pacers and now I'm into it.
Right.
Or I'm into it with Shannon Sharp and we're becoming a distraction for the team.
Right.
That's where even with our newfound fame and riches, I've got to realize that this is hurting more than helping. And so from that standpoint, from just the standpoint of just tightening things up, like you're talking about 2 gun incidents now.
Right.
You know, you're talking about several incidents now where T on the sideline has gotten into it, whether it's with players or with fans. That is not the way of professionals. And I thought Shaq said this best, like, you don't want to put yourself in a position, right, where you're allowing them to take it back away from you.
Absolutely.
Where it's self-inflicted.
Absolutely.
Not after you work this hard. Not after you put parachutes on your back in the backyard to be this athletic, trained to go like you had tattooed. You put in too much work to give it back. And so that's whether it's with the antics with T or more importantly, Ja and his decision making now as a man. You know, T can't go out and he has raised this young man.
Right.
They have got to tighten it up. That's where I'm at.
Well, hold on. I'll even push back on you in that even Michael Jordan had a Bill Cartwright. And, you know, with Michael Jordan acting
Oakley
a fool,
was the too. Yeah,
well,
had those vets.
I'm thinking of Bill Cartwright because Bill Cartwright slapped him pretty good when he got disrespectful. So my thing is, if Jordan can get corrected, there's an older person who
I agree.
that literally would be in their locker room and be like, "No, man, you're not going to do this."
I think you're absolutely right. They missed that element.
This. And they're missing that because the other guys on the team are young. The Desmond Bain is like, "Man, I'm just trying to get my next contract." Triple J,
right?
I'm trying.
Well, they haven't been through. They don't know what to say to him.
Right. They
haven't been like those old heads.
Exactly.
I do believe in terms of roster building, you are absolutely right that going forward, they are going to have to get more leadership because you've got so many young ones. It's not just Ja. You're trying to. It's all of those. Whether it's Jaren Bain, all of them. It's such a young nucleus.
Very true.
Veteran leadership can't do anything but help this team. Hopefully, they have more of it next season.
I think there's something that our young people get twisted. That I've said this to Larry and we've talked about it. Bottom line is, at the bottom of your check, of their check, is somebody else's name, okay? They don't sign their own checks, okay? And this person's name is on other checks as well, which says that he can pay all of y'all and still have some money. That's how well he's got it. My point is, you work for somebody. Okay? And you got to do what you got to do to keep your job.
Exactly.
That's your living. That's what you do. And so this ain't just about you. It is.
And he may have already cost himself $40 million.
Yeah.
Because, you know, for this max contract that he signed, it's $191 million value.
Right.
But if you are all NBA this year, first, second, or third team, that contract goes from 191 to 230.
Oh my goodness!
And so, because that All NBA team is voted on by writers, sports writers, and broadcasters, they may have already decided. Forget how many games Ja's going to miss now. They may have already decided. You know what? This isn't becoming. We've now had 2 gun incidents. No, nothing charged. No charge.
Right.
But 2 incidents where the NBA's had to come investigate. You know, some of these reporters are going to look down at that balance and say, you know what? Not this year for
I'm
Ja.
I'm gonna tell y'all what.
And it's literally going to cost him $40 million. Quite possibly.
Watch the Powerade deal. Watch the Powerade deal because the Powerade was launching and putting more money in a campaign than they ever had before in the history of the brand.
They were banking on him.
And banking on him to start, and they were going to start this campaign in March Madness. Think they're going to start it now?
It was so unfortunate for him that on that same day they launched that campaign, the Washington Post story comes down with the 2 incidents from the summer where he's hit the 17-year-old kid, at least been accused of that, and the 17-year-old's accusing him of having a gun. That came down the same day. What you doing? Back to the point. Don't let them take it away because you gave it to them. And in making those decisions, you know, you're reaching a point where you might do something irreparable. You know, at this point, it's all, to me, you can still get past this clearly. You haven't hurt anyone, you know, to this point in terms of harm, but there's too much of a pattern. That's what concerns you.
So we got 30 seconds. I want you to talk about your future for you. If you could had your druthers in terms of what the next step would be for you?
I want to be in local radio here in Memphis for the rest of my life.
Is that
and
right?
I want to get more black men and women in radio, more people of color in radio, brown as well.
Right.
And especially in my hometown, moved here in 2nd grade, but I call it my hometown, been raised here, all that, here in Memphis. Because I feel like that's what God at this point has put me in that platform to do. It's embarrassing,
right,
the lack of representation, not just sports radio, but in media.
Yeah.
Media in Memphis, the lack of has it gotten better? Sure. We came here in the 80s. My father worked for Channel 5, where we moved here from Fort Pierce, Florida, and there were very few blacks in the media. It felt all white back at that point. It's gotten better, but particularly in the sports radio side of it, it has not.
Right.
And so my hope is that I can stay in that job long enough to where I've got enough pull or enough of people actually listening to me that I can get more people like you guys, more people like me in here saying what we think.
Good for you, man.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's-
Wait a
that's
minute.
my hope.
One last question.
All right, Larry.
Prediction for the Grizzlies this year. What's your prediction?
First round exit.
First round exit.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I'm just so concerned that, last year they won taking Steven Adams off the floor against Minnesota.
Right.
Taking him off the floor and going small with Brandon Clark.
Right.
And sort of running. And they're a team that, Minnesota was still trying to learn. You can't even do that this year.
Right.
Because with Brandon out for the rest of the season. And so, again, not knowing what the health – we may very well have seen the last of Steven Adams. They're saying 4 weeks till a reevaluation. That's the rest of the regular season.
Oh, wow.
So the version of Steven Adams you get won't even be similar. So because – man, the West is loaded now since that trade deadline. A lot going to depend on, Kevin Durant. He slipped the other night. They said he might not play the regular season, but I'm worried that we could be looking at a first round exit. But I would not be overly disappointed by it if you could get through the season in terms of getting through this year. You figured out, I think, at least in my terms, you don't need Dylan Brooks going forward. You're moving off him and looking to upgrade. We saw the reports where they were trying to get an OG Anunoby or Mikal Bridges. But what clearly is you need an upgrade at that position. Absolutely. And so all that said, with your nucleus as young as it is, even a first-round exit, I don't think is overly disappointing. It'll just be part of the process. And I do believe that in 4 to 5 years, this franchise will win a title.
Fantastic.
All right.
What you got to say about that?
But they need more veteran leadership.
That's true.
Before they can do it.
True that. Jason Smith, we appreciate it.
It's been an absolute pleasure, gentlemen.
All right, now look, let us say this. Don't let it be that this long before you come back. Now, you're welcome to come anytime.
I'm going to have
we might make you one of our go-to cats.
I'd be honored. I'd love to. Because, this man here has helped me more than he knows.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, you talk about God's plan. That man was helping me before I even knew I was going to be headed to radio.
I've been working with him, man. He was like the Beverly Hillbillies when I first met him. We'll be back for more.
Gloom, despair, agony on me.
Oh! R&R on Sports.
Kadzukian.
The company is based in Memphis, but it is international.
A new building, an expanded team, new equipment, a new studio, all inside of 7 years.
The resources that we were able to utilize with Kadzukian and their team has been incredible. And our partners at Kadzukian has been a large part of our success.
One, it's Black owned, so we get to tell our own stories in our own way.
With social media and the technology we have today, the world is listening.
Kadzukian. Check out all your Kadzukian favorites now. Download the Kadzukian app, available on Android and iOS.
Back for more as we head toward the door. R&R on Sports, only place that you can get this kind of crazy A talk.
Crazy A talk.
Hey.
Yeah. But you trying not to get censored, get beeped, and all that.
Yeah, I know.
Man, just tell them who you shouting out. Tell them who you shouting out.
Kelvin Sampson.
Who?
Kelvin Sampson, the head coach of
Houston?
The Houston Cougars.
Come on, man. Why you shouting out that brother, man?
Because I like him. I like the kind of coach that he is. I got a lot of respect for him. Those boys would go through a wall for him.
They love him.
Love that kind of coach. Love that kind of coach. He ain't easy on them. I love that kind of coach.
He's a throwback coach.
He's a throwback coach. Because, these kids have gotten sensitive and coaches can't get in their faces like they used to do us.
No,
and
man,
it's hard and different to coach now. And he's
asked Calipari about that. Man, they talking about getting him up out of there. Are
they talking about that?
They were, but now once again, players are just so young, man. You trying to put all-star team together and get them to play together when they've been superstars.
And who beat them, like St. Jude or somebody?
Yeah.
The Crippled Children.
Little children of the orphans or something like that, man. Nah, Oakland. Shout out to Oakland, man. But listen, man, my shout out is to international basketball. Check this out. The top 4 players for the NBA MVP: Jokic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Giannis, and Luka Doncic.
What do they all have in common?
They all are foreign players.
Origin.
All foreign players.
What does that say to you, Larry?
The NBA is changing, y'all. The NBA is changing. These American players better get it together, because I'm telling you,
you can't be no one-trick pony, baby.
They're coming in more prepared. They're coming in more skilled. And
They're
game
coming
is better.
in more fundamentally sound.
Absolutely. So, listen, I'm shouting out international basketball. Keep doing it. We just need some of them academies over here. But I'm telling you, the next group is going to be the Africans, man.
They don't all have that in common, do they? They didn't all come through some kind of academy. Is that right?
Man, all of them, yeah. They play international ball, yeah.
Jeremy, we got to look that up for the next show.
So you got Shai, came from Canada. You got Giannis over in Greece and by way of Nigeria.
I mean academies. I know they're
but
from.
Yeah, but they not, but the academies are now a big part of. No, the academies are a big part of what's happening now.
They haven't started.
Yeah, they started
graduating products yet.
Yeah, they have. Okay. So you start looking at the OG Ananobis. You looking at the Pascal Siakams. All these guys are through those African academies.
Okay.
Man. So,
all right. We appreciate you being with us here on R&R on Sports. I'm Howard Robertson.
And I'm the great gambler, Larry Robinson.
All right. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. We are out.
I don't need to do the Heimlich maneuver or nothing on you, bro. You're over choking. Peace.
I'm all right.
You've been listening to a little R&R on Sports, written and produced by Howard Robertson, Larry Robinson, recorded and mixed in Memphis, Tennessee.